Before we start, here's a pop quiz. How do you kill a vampire? Sunlight, stake to the heart, holy water, fire, decapitation, silver bullet? Write your answer down and we'll come back to it later. So previously we talked about the diegesis and the attendant mental construct, the fiction space alternate universe that stories exist in inside our heads. Today, we're going to talk about boundaries. Specifically, we're going to be talking about diegetic justification for creepy garbage and how terrible and flawed it is as an argument. So there's a bad habit that people have gotten into. It's nothing new, but it's becoming more and more common, and it goes like this. Hello, this is Folding Ideas. I recently watched the anime Women Getting Ripped Apart by Orcs and was, disturbed by the seeming perverse glee the show takes in the way it frames the frequent and excessive dismemberment of its female cast members. In fact, the entire purpose of the show seems to be little more than showing women being brutally violated by orcs. Minor characters with little plot significance are often subjected to 2 or 3 minute sequences that focus an almost pornographic lens on their suffering and the enjoyment the orcs take in the process.
Dan Olson is wrong to complain. If he thinks this is a big deal, then he clearly wasn't paying attention. The orcs were created by the Dread God who hates all light. The Dread God wanted an army that would rape and shred its way across the land of Thule. So the orcs aren't just violent for no reason. They are compelled to be violent. It all makes sense if you were paying attention to the backstory.
This has become a pretty familiar exchange over the last few years, and the base components are this. 1, some element of a movie, anime, or video game is criticized, usually for racism or sexism. 2, fans defend it by citing in-universe reasons for why the world of the text is the way that it is. Here's the problem. Fictional worlds aren't real, and are eternally mutable by creators. They are the sum of a giant pile of creative decisions made by 1, 2, a dozen, 100 different individuals who took it from blank page to finished product. The only reason anything is the way that it is because a writer chose to make it that way. The diegetic argument aims to dismiss criticism at its core, suggesting that there aren't any problems with the text provided controversial elements are internally consistent with the rest of the story world. In slang terms, this can be referred to as the Thermian argument. In the sci-fi classic Galaxy Quest, the Thermians don't understand fiction as a concept. It doesn't exist in their language, and thus they see all texts as historical documents. While not identical, the root figure of thought is similar here. The diegesis is given primacy over the text as a cultural product. The exact rationale behind a Thermian argument may even end up being contradictory from one case to another. One medieval game with dragons and magic, but no one with brown skin, is fine as is because historical accuracy. In a different medieval game, a character wears a chainmail bikini to a war zone because it's just a fantasy and that's just how her tribe dresses. You cannot criticize the world because that's just the way the world is. This is a deeply flawed argument because, once again, fictional worlds aren't real and are eternally mutable by creators. None of it actually exists. The only part that does exist is the finished text and the idea that it represents. So let's go back to the quiz. How do you kill a vampire? It doesn't matter what you wrote, the answer is irrelevant. Vampires aren't real. While the rules for how to kill a vampire may be codified within any given game, movie, book, or show, nothing exists to enforce the rules of a fictional space. Writers routinely alter the rules to suit their interests and the needs of their story. So, in the world outside the diegesis, in our world, only the implications and impact of that fiction actually matter. That's why this type of dismissal, using a diegetic justification to nullify criticism, is ultimately a chump argument. Unlike world history, where there is a theoretical objective truth that we can seek to better and more accurately represent, fictional worlds are fiction. There is no truth to move towards. Arguments for purity or consistency miss the point entirely. The Thermian argument, therefore, serves only to shut down discussion. Criticism of a creative work is ultimately criticism of the decisions that people made when they were putting it together. And that's where we're going to leave things for today. Now, go in peace, my children, in the name of like, share, and subscribe. Amen.